Duke basketball survives the second sting of the season from Georgia Tech. The Yellow Jackets don't beat Duke twice this year. Duke walks away with a victory. Let's talk about it.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man. The Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. It's so great to have you here with us on this Monday, January 15th, 2024. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day to all of our listeners out there. Thank you so much for making Locked On Blue Devils your first listen and first watch each and every day. I want to give a special shout out to all of our everydayers that are a part of this program each and every day. Comment down below in the YouTube section, letting us know that you're an everydayer, as your support means so much to what we're trying to do here on Locked On Blue Devils. Give this video a thumbs up if you're watching us on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Share it with your friends, all that jazz. And if you're listening to us on the podcast platform, please hit that pause button. Give us a 5-star rating and written review. The algorithms love those written reviews, and I'll give some love to those 5-star Friday reviews on 5-star Friday. So make sure that you check all of that out coming up here soon on Locked On Blue Devils. Again, and thank you for your support. Over the weekend, Duke basketball survived a second sting attempt from the Yellow Jackets. Duke had already lost to Georgia Tech in Atlanta earlier this season. The Yellow Jackets returned to Durham, played in Cameron Indoor, and Duke walks away with a 5-point victory. Today we talk about that with our good pal Jordan Mann of the Big J and Little J show. So let's bring him on in. What a fun game it was for the Duke basketball team. A little bit more closer than comfort, I think. But at the end of the day, a win is a win, and we really love to see it.
Oh, yeah. Win's a win. A conference win is a massive win, especially a team that you already lost to earlier this season. Battle-tested, tied at halftime, gritty 5-point win. And, yeah, I'm ready to take a little deep dive, JJ.
What a win it was for the Duke basketball team, being tied at halftime. And then in the second half, Duke trails by as many as 10 points and finds a way to come back into it. Before we go anywhere, though, in this game specifically, all last week, we're talking about getting revenge back and how it's going to be amazing for Mark Mitchell to get to play Georgia Tech once again, and had the technical foul at the end of the game in Atlanta. And about an hour before the game gets going, Duke men's basketball delivers quite the bombshell, so to speak. Mark Mitchell is out with a sprained knee. He would not play. We didn't see that coming, Jordan.
No, did not see that coming. That take aged like spoiled milk, Jay. It was not great, but we did counter. We did kind of save ourselves. We also said Tyrese Proctor, since he only played 1 minute against Georgia Tech, and he obviously had 17 points, and that was a big game for Proctor to get out of a slump. He was 1 of 10 in his last 2 games in 46 minutes, so this was massive for him. And the Mark Mitchell situation, it was another guy. We'll go into it, but Ryan Young had 10 and 9 off the bench to really make up for the lack of Mark Mitchell's presence. I was really proud of Ryan, and just a huge win and big contributors.
You've got a lot of things on Tyrese Proctor that folks have seen you posting on social. I want to get to that here in just a little bit, but let's focus on Mark Mitchell here to open up the show, because again, such a big part of what Duke wants to do. Last season in the NCAA tournament, he missed his first ever game of his college career, and it obviously hurt Duke as they fall to Tennessee. This Duke team was playing so well, riding a 7-game winning streak, and in those games, Mark Mitchell was really coming into his own. You're looking for a way for Proctor to kind of get back into the starting lineup. John Shire has talked about, well, we've got 6 starters, so in some ways you'll feel okay. However, Mark Mitchell, his size, his defensive ability, he just does so much for this Duke team. I was a little kind of nervy going into this one, seeing how it would all play out without him on the floor.
Yeah, you're not the only one. I was a little nervous too, because against Pitt, obviously he only had 4 points, but he does all the intangibles very well for Duke, and he does the things that do not show him up in box scores that we've talked about. And yeah, missing his defense against an athletic Georgia Tech team was something I was worried about when I realized he was not going to suit up for Duke. But Duke did a really good job of adjusting without him. But yes, hopefully Mark Mitchell will be ready to come back have a week off here. Hopefully he'll be ready to go because his presence is much needed for this Duke roster.
Big time win for Duke, 84-79 the final score as Duke picks up their 8th win in a row. We hope to make it 9 this upcoming Saturday. But for the first time this season, the opponents scored more than their season average. Pretty tough day defensively for Duke. Credit to Georgia Tech, as John Shire and the players were talking about after the fact. They were making some really tough shots, a couple of banked-in three-pointers. But nonetheless, I think you walk away a little disappointed in what we saw on the defensive end.
Yeah, Georgia Tech, I mean, they came into the Duke game shooting 30% from three. And when they upset Duke, they hit some tough threes. And then in Cameron, they shot 55% from three. They were 11 of 20. So it's just like, what the heck is – I mean, the stereotype of people play up to Duke's level when they play Duke rings true with Georgia Tech's outside shooting in the 2 games they played Duke, because 30% three-point shooting team, shooting 11 of 20 in Cameron, and a lot of them were contested. One was banked in. It just looked like it's going to be one of those nights again for Georgia Tech, but the perseverance by Duke, man, that was a gritty win. Yeah,
Nathan George, their freshman point guard, really excited about what he could be as a college basketball player. If you were listening to the broadcast, Damon Stoudemire feels really good out of what he's got in that Canadian, but so much so, speaking to their three-point percentage, you mentioned it, 30% as a team going into the game. They shoot 11 of 20. That's 55% from the floor. Tyrese Proctor, after the fact, kind of outed the Georgia Tech point guard and said, look, Nate George is a 7% three-point shooter on the season. We were kind of giving him some looks, and people live up to playing against Duke. He walked away with the team-high 17 points for Georgia Tech, and Nate George went 3 of 6 from three-point range. He hit a couple of those tough shots, but I thought it was pretty wild that Proctor wasn't afraid, Jordan. He let the world know, like, look, this guy has not been a shooter all season long.
Yeah, he's not. It's like if Mark Mitchell came out and was 3 of 6 from three, and Duke beat somebody, say they beat UNC, Amande Baycott or RJ Davis, be like, well, he is a 7% three-point shooter. Like, yeah, we're going to let him shoot. And probably all assistant coaches, after he made the first ones, like, let him keep shooting. We want him to keep shooting because that's what you needed to do. He just found gold at the end of the rainbow in Cameron and shot 3 of 6 from three. And I mean, shout out to him. Confidence is confidence, and he's a talented guard. But yes, as a Duke fan and as like a former coach, obviously you want to live with those percentages.
It's just tough, though, when they're not going your way. Because,
God.
Yeah, I mean, to Proctor's point, it's like, I know we're going to get everyone's best shot. It's just really tough when it happens because these types of things shouldn't be happening.
Oh, yeah, you're a coach on the sideline. I would love to see a coach cam of, like, when he made his first and second three of, like, Jay Lucas and Chris Carrawell looking at each other like, are you kidding me? Because we have the scouting report perfect, and now he's going to turn into J.J. Redick and Cameron.
Yeah, big-time performance. Duke wins 84-79. They're now 13-3 overall on the season. Let's talk a little bit more about Proctor, what we got out of him offensively against the Yellow Jackets. And we'll do that after we take our first time out here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. This app is so easy to use and so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. You could find bets in the new Explore Hub, making a parlay in the Parlay Hub, and so much more. The best way to find popular parlays is through FanDuel. We're getting ready for an exciting upcoming divisional round of the NFL playoffs, so make sure you go check it all out over at FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. Back on Locked On Blue Devils, JJ Jackson alongside my pal Jordan Mann at Coach J Mann on X, and check out his show, The Big J and Little J Show. All right, Tyrese Proctor, back from injury. He suffered an ankle sprain injury in the first minute of the Georgia Tech game, the second day of December, and he was out for several games for this Duke basketball team. He was back, though, on Saturday against the Yellow Jackets. Break down Tyrese Proctor's play for us a little bit, Jordan.
Yeah, so I tweeted out a stat that I came across. I talked about it on the Big J and Little J show this past week about trying to diagnose his game and his struggles, inconsistencies, really. And obviously, like I said earlier in this show, he was 1 of 10 in his last 2 games from the field total with 3 total points. And so I looked deeper into the box score. And so let me pull up my handy dandy notes for you, JJ. So, yeah, 46 minutes, 3 points coming into this game. And 0 free throw attempts. That was the thing that stuck out to me. When you're struggling to shoot from the floor, you have 0 free throw attempts. You're not driving, you're settling, and you're not getting in a rhythm. So in 11 games, he went to 11 games coming into this game. So we'll say 12 now, but he went to the free throw line more than twice 4 times. In those 4 games, he's averaging 15 points per game on 51% shooting and 50% from 3. That's incredible splits for a guy that he goes to the free throw line. He shoots 3 or more free throws a game. He's done that 4 times now at Duke. This season, he's averaging 15 points per game on 51% from the field. And the 8 games where he does not do that, where he shoots 2 free throws or less, JJ, he's averaging 8 points per game and shooting 40% from the floor. So clearly it's like a rhythm thing for him to where he gets to the line. He's just more stats-wise, he's just more locked in. He's more efficient from the field when he sees the ball go through the net at the free throw line multiple times in a game. And I think it's something that just works for him and something he needs to continue to do. He's a big guard, needs to get downhill and get to the rim and get to the line.
I feel like there's a lot of balance that comes with that. I feel like in Proctor's position, you might be worried about the selfish nature of taking all of these shots when we know the type of passer that he is, the aggressiveness that it takes. We talk a lot about the spacing with the Duke basketball team in regards to Kyle Filipowski and where he's positioned. But I mean, man, you just said it. Those numbers are crazy. When he's aggressive, he plays well. When he plays well, I truly think Duke plays well.
Yeah, 100%. He's just locked in. And like Connor said this too, and it's correct. Like, yes, he only had 3 points last game against Pitt, but he also had like, I think 7 rebounds and 6 assists or some like a really good floor game. And that's what he does. But that's really good for Duke. But if Duke wants to make a deep run in March, Tyrese Proctor has to be a guy that can score the ball. Like, he needs to put up 17 points and 5 rebounds and 5 assists. It can't be 5 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He's way too good of a guard. He's very skilled. I mean, he makes highlight reel plays. It's just those highlight reel plays have to be counteracted with going to the rim and having like the ugly buckets around the rim.
Give us those averages one more time that you just laid out for the folks out there. I want them to hear it again.
So in 4 games where he shot 2 or more than 2 free throws, it's 15 points per game on 51% shooting from the field and 50% shooting from 3. In the 8 games he does not shoot more than 2 free throws a game, it's 8 points per game on 40% shooting from the field.
Quite the drop off. And so for Proctor's numbers on Saturday, he finished with 17 points, 5 of 10 from the floor, 3 of 5, 60% from three-point range, and he shot 4 free throws. He made all 4 attempts that he had at the line. So I love it. That's something to be watching for. We love watching Mark Mitchell and when he can get into double figures scoring for the Duke basketball team, but there's got to be something for Proctor's aggressiveness and what it does to translate into the game. And then also when he's a little bit more engaged, I think the team really feeds off it. He's one of the fun players to kind of watch his on-the-court antics. He's got a little trash talk and swag to his game a little bit, but he really felt locked in, particularly in that second half when Duke is mounting a comeback. It's Proctor who's knocking down those big wing three-point shots for Duke.
Oh, yeah. His energy, man, like when his contagious. Like when he hits a 3 and he does his little celebration, you can feel it on the court that like the Duke team is lifted through that energy. So, yeah, he had a huge bounce back game, JJ. And I wonder now, is this the week where, like, say Mitchell does come back, like Caleb Foster didn't play terrible. He was 1 of 3 in 28 minutes. He had 3 points and 4 assists and 2 rebounds. But is this the game where we flip now that Foster is going to come off the bench? Did Proctor find something and Mark Mitchell's going to come back and start? So that'll be interesting to see after this week break.
Yeah, we'll have to see how Mark Mitchell recovers. Jeremy Roach also hobbled in the second half of this game. Kind of walk us through that, Jordan. What did you see?
Yeah, that was I don't know if he got knee to knee. I never know what the diagnosis was, but it looked like the way he was limping that it was just like he knee to knee, or maybe got Charlie horse or something. But he came back in the game. Then he came back in the game,
Yep.
right? Yeah, he came back in the game. And, I mean, look, he battled it out. 18 points, 5 of 12, 6 of 7 from the line, 50% from three. Like, just another Roach clinic, basically.
Yeah, he got it done. To not be 100% and still deliver the way he did was awesome. But then additionally, he's hobbled there in the second half. He does come back, but he's only able to come back for 59 seconds, and then he's brought back out of the game again. And Duke had found something with Ryan Young, which we can get to in just a moment. So a big thing there after the game ends on Saturday night. Roach, of course, does not speak to the media. John Shire does not give any information regarding Roach's injury. And then we found out today, Monday morning, that John Shire said imaging was done for Jeremy Roach. It does not look to be anything serious or severe. And he gave the old day-to-day that we're used to seeing with coaches for Roach's recovery, which is good because they have an entire week off here.
Yeah, take it easy. I mean, this is a guy that does not need to really practice to know where he is. He can do the Seth Curry treatment, where Seth Curry had such bad shin splints they didn't practice for Duke. He just played in games and averaged like 16 points per game. So I have let Roach just rest and they can suit up.
Is that a take? Roach doesn't need to practice. Is that a take thrown our way?
For the long term, for March, take it easy. For a short term, it might backfire next game. He might go like 3 of 9 and people on my head for him struggling. But in the long term, take it easy.
Take it easy. We love it. All right, I mentioned Ryan Young. Duke basketball, Coach Shire's talked about 6 starters this entire season, feeling really good about it. After the game, he tries to switch it up and say maybe it's 7 starters because he wanted to give Ryan Young some love for what he was able to do. 22 minutes from the floor, 4 of 5 shooting, 9 rebounds, 10 points, and had 2 assists as well. One of the more impressive games we've seen this year from Ryan Young, and in a game in which Mitchell's out, Roach is hobbled, you needed it, and that was great to see.
Yeah, first off, for the YouTube viewers, you can see this, but there's an empty space right here on my wall, and that's going to be the poster when Ryan Young got dunked on in the first half. But he bounced back.
He did. It was early in the game, yeah.
For a guy that just absolutely got that dude went baseline and just lifted. I'm like, oh my God, I saw him cock it back, and I was just like, please, God, let him at least land on his own 2 feet, not on his butt like Paul. And he landed perfectly fine, JJ. But then he comes back and has 10 and 9 and 2 assists and a block in 22 minutes. Like, I had to throw something at Ryan there. But yeah, 10 and 9 off the bench, almost a double-double for a guy that Duke really needed. And against an athletic team like Georgia Tech, what Ryan Young does so well is he plays below the rim. And what I mean by that is you play an athletic team like Georgia Tech, they're going for every pump fake.
Yeah.
Every pump fake. And there was multiple times where Ryan Young called it and they're already jumping up. And he's not even moving his head yet. He's just moving his shoulders and got him up off the ground, was efficient around the rim. And 4 offensive rebounds, dude. A guy plays below the rim against an athletic team. Just outstanding performance by Ryan Young, all jokes aside.
Yeah, we love to see it. Good work, Ryan Young. Keep it up. And, we'll see how he can be a part of the Duke team moving forward.
And one last thing, JJ.
Yeah.
Ryan, if you have to get dunked on every game to have 10 and 9 in 22 minutes, by all means, just get out of the way early in the first 5 minutes. It's okay. We can live with it. We can bounce back.
No injuries, and as long as it's not a meaningful moment in the game, right?
Yeah. It's all about Duke UNC. I'm tired of seeing the Danny Green and Paulus thing.
Right. You need new footage out there. All right, let's take our last break of the show, and then we'll wrap things up after this final timeout here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Jase Medical. I know that we come to sports to escape from some of the crazy realities of real life, but can we talk for just a minute about preparing for real life? According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. I can't imagine a more helpless feeling for us than not knowing where you could find that life-saving medication that's needed. Thankfully, we will all be okay because of Jase Medical. The Jase case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, skin infections, among others. This stuff could happen to any of us. Go ahead and visit jasemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. So go ahead and go to jasemedical.com and use offer code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order. jasemedical.com, promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off your order. Final few moments here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. JJ Jackson alongside my pal Jordan Mann from the Big J and Little J show. Give us a plug for your show.
Yeah, Big J and Little J show. We'll record this week as well. Like I said, last week we came out with it right before the Georgia Tech game. The Georgia Tech game. So we just talked about more analytic stuff. We gave Jalen Blake a shout out for what he's done for Duke, and I really did a deep dive with him. Connor and I did, and we talked about the ACC and who's a threat to win the ACC. And poor Connor, at the day we recorded, Miami played Louisville. Louisville beats Miami, but he did get a little redemption. Miami had a big road win against Virginia Tech. So that take is still on the verge of being successful. But yes, all jokes aside, I would love for you guys to listen into it. It's a really fun 45-minute conversation. And then last thing, JJ, is Elon Musk needs to free my Duke FB fans account. Right now, I am still restricted. I can't log into Twitter. So I'm on a 48-hour suspension right now, and probably until the near future.
We hate to hear that. I was unaware.
Yeah.
Wow.
I made a joke about Mike Elko potentially being in the running for the Alabama head coaching job, and I said that he was left Duke in the middle of the night, and he may be leaving to Tuscaloosa tonight. And then I got reported. So
wow.
So we have to free Duke FB fans, unfortunately.
Find whatever we need to do to make that happen. We need to make it happen. All right, I want to talk a little bit more about basketball here before we get out of here. Recruiting news from over the weekend. VJ Edgecombe at Hoop Hall was going to do his halftime commitment for the game televised on ESPN2. He was deciding between Duke, Baylor, and Kentucky going into the weekend. It was kind of cut down to 2 between Duke and Baylor. This whole few past months with VJ Edgecombe being a part of all of Cooper Flagg's visits to campus and whatnot, you're feeling really good about the chances that he is a Duke Blue Devil. But on Sunday night, VJ Edgecombe committed to Baylor. So Duke remains with just 5 players in their class of 2024 recruiting class. It's still the number 1 recruiting class in the country. They still have the most prized possession in Cooper Flagg, but we're greedy over here as Duke basketball fans, Jordan.
Yeah, we're greedy, and but I mean, numbers wise, it just never really made sense. Somebody's going to have to leave regardless. It was going to be, if VJ was going to come in, then I guess Khan would be the guy that would have been out. And but what he does is he's a sharpshooter that's already coming into Duke. So I understand. And then you have Isaiah Evans. That's a pretty efficient scorer as well. But yeah, VJ going to Baylor, it makes sense numbers-wise for Duke. And honestly, I'm excited with the recruiting classes coming in. And then this 7'2" guy from Africa, right, JJ?
That's right.
Also, and that's a guy that, hey, you get 7'2". I need to look more film about him before I get really is this a very good defensive player, or is it level competition type of guy? I know he's a 5-star and he's talented, and also the guys that are at Duke now, who stays?
Yeah.
It's a good problem to have for Shire. So just because they missed out on VJ Edgecombe, at the end of the day, I trust the roster lineup, and I trust what Shire and the staff's going to do with the roster for next season.
There's a lot of big scholarship math that needs to be done for sure to see kind of how everything will fall and be settled with all these guys. So, but yeah, VJ Edgecombe will not be coming to play basketball for Duke. 8-game winning streak for the Blue Devils. They've got Pitt again coming up this weekend, a night game inside Cameron Indoor before a game at Louisville. How are you feeling about Duke's chances going into Saturday?
I feel good. I feel like Georgia Tech was the real test and this little groove that they're in right now in their little win streak. And Pittsburgh, I love Capel, but the lack of just offense that they run sometimes and the shot selections, they just shoot some bad shots. And sometimes they're a good, bad shot making team, and that's not a great thing to be. But I like Duke. I like what Duke's going to do 1 through 5 on switching defensively, and then they were effective against Pitt at Pitt, and I think it's going to continue when they play Pittsburgh.
The worry has got to be kind of that you beat Pitt so badly just a short while ago at their place. The kind of get back factor, it's harder considering the first meeting was not in Cameron Indoor. Now Duke's going on the road. That was at their place, and now we're coming back to Cameron to play. But I don't know. I feel like Pitt's going to be a little upset with how they played, and I would anticipate this being a little bit of a more competitive game. That said, Duke should still feel pretty good about this one.
Yeah, and same could be said for Duke. Like, I know Filipowski and Duke shot lights out, but I got talked about in the show that Proctor only had 3 points against Pitt. So did we find something with Proctor? If he starts against Pittsburgh, we're going to get the 17 points that he had against Georgia Tech against Pitt on top of what Duke did against Pittsburgh. So we'll see. But the one thing about this Duke team, JJ, is besides Filipowski, you never know who the next guy's going to be or who could be the leading scorer. Like McCain is coming off a 6-point game. Does he get hot again? So it's a good problem to have for Duke that like in all these games that they've had 6 different leading scorers in these contests so far. That shows the range of the scoring that Duke's capable of. And so who's going to be the guy for Pittsburgh? That's the exciting thing for Duke.
Well, we know one thing. We're going to be having more conversations about the Duke team throughout the rest of the week, and we're excited to catch back up with you again next week, Jordan. As always, the time is greatly appreciated, my friend, and we'll do this again soon, okay?
Appreciate it as always, JJ.
All right, that's Jordan Mann, and he's joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. That's going to do it for our show here today. Thank you for your support here of the program. We're back at it again tomorrow. Our pal Brendan Marks of The Athletic will be stopping by, so make sure you listen to our conversation. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review on the Apple Podcast platform and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That does it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.